Good afternoon, friends. We're so excited that you joined us for our talk today and glad to have you here. The chat box is open. We'll try to monitor that a little bit if anybody has any questions while we talk. But we're just really excited that you're here. This is The Way Home, the Facebook Live for Crossnore Communities for Children. After today, you can find all of our episodes on our Facebook page. You can also go to our blog and listen to this as a podcast or rewatch the video on our YouTube channel as well. Today, I want to introduce you to our guest, Angela Bollo. Angela is one of our Fostering Communities officers in the Hendersonville office, and I am delighted to have her on my team. And so she's going to talk with us about Fostering Communities. Hey, Angela.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me on today.
Absolutely. So introduce yourself beyond what I said. Tell us a little bit about who you are and your family and all that.
Fantastic. My name is Angela Bollo, soon to be Bollo-Higgins. I am engaged to be married next month, so I'm super excited about that. So our family is getting started. We actually currently already have two kiddos through kinship placements. I have a 16-year-old who is gigantic, and he's been living with me for the last 5 years. He's my nephew, and then I have a little itty bitty 1.5-year-old through kinship care as well. She's a joy to have around. It is sometimes difficult to have a 16-year-old and a 1-year-old in the same house, but we get by. It's fun. So I've been at Crossnore in our Fostering Communities program for a little over 3 years now, and have been excited to see how Fostering Communities has aided in what Crossnore is doing, and also really excited to see how it has changed and morphed over the years as we've developed it into the program that it is today. I've worked in so many different aspects of foster care over the last 10 plus years, in residential services and in foster care and licensing and case management. So I've got a real heart for foster care and in the work that we're doing.
That's terrific. Not only do you have a heart for the work that you've worked in for so long, but you're living it in your own life.
Working with Crossnore has definitely aided me in the other work that I do, and the home life that I have, and caring for the kiddos that I do have. So well, you mentioned Fostering Communities, and that is your job here at Crossnore. So why don't you tell our audience a little bit about Fostering Communities? What exactly is that? Fostering Communities started at Crossnore a little over 3 years ago as well. And it originally started specifically to work with local churches to help them find their role in foster care. And it kind of morphed from that to include the entire community. And so we really look at Fostering Communities as a way to rally around the children and families that we serve through local partnerships and different services that we can provide to fully support, to provide that full support system around all of the children and families that we serve, from residential to foster care to our preventative services and our clinical services.
And so what does that support look like? Like we talk about it a lot, and we know, some of the ways that people have supported Crossnore and the children and families that we serve. But for folks that aren't familiar with it, what does it mean to support the programs that beyond like a financial gift? Like everybody knows,
Right.
A nonprofit can certainly use financial gifts. But when it comes to really supporting the children and families in foster care, what does that look like?
It looks real it looks different depending on who you are and where you are, and what your heart kind of is desiring. We've had individuals come and donate tons of clothing, and that's the way that they serve, and that's their mission. We have a quilting guild that is currently making quilts for our children. And so that's a big task there too. I think it's just finding your niche and finding the ways that you would like to support the agency or the support the children and the families that we serve, whether that is, hosting a block party for our foster families, which is something that, one of our partners, Healthy Blue, has really been working hard with us to do, or whether your heart is in creating a foster care closet within your church. We've had a few local churches and individuals that are like, that's what I want to do. And so they've created a foster care closet for their county and their community. And that way, when children come into care, we're not running out to Walmart. You can have people throw, they're putting outfits into book bags and dropping them off for families. And it really helps, and it goes a long way.
Yeah. That would be a huge help to a family that is getting children in. Sometimes, placements come at not particularly convenient times.
Yes. Yes. And sometimes children come with a lot, and sometimes children come with like nothing. And so these foster care closets are great, to help support that, because to go from no outfits to a week's worth of outfits is a lot. And I don't know if you guys have shopped at the stores recently, but things get expensive and it adds up real fast. And being able to have that resource and not have to, dredge through Target or Walmart with a new kid in tow is super helpful.
Yeah. I mean, I often say that, the foster families that take in children, whether they're licensed through Crossnore or they're licensed through another agency or through this, state DSS, those families just serve out of this overflow of their heart and, not always, the overflow of their checkbook. And so to be able to help them to provide for the kids that they've opened their home to, it is a privilege and really something that we ought to do. I'm not sure we have a choice about it, So.
Right. Well, I would totally agree. And I think even outside of foster care, I know I spoke a lot to that because Fostering Communities has been in our foster care program the longest, but it's been neat over the last year or plus to see how the community has rallied around some of our other services, like last Thanksgiving, where, a church took on creating Thanksgiving meal kits for all of our day treatment families, and how much of a blessing that was to them on our Winston-Salem campus, or the church that came alongside a family that was in our preventative services program and they really needed a washer and dryer.
How Fostering Communities as a program or an initiative fits into the Crossnore overall mission. So Crossnore's mission is to create or to grow healthy futures for children and families through this sanctuary of hope and healing. And so how, Angela, then does Fostering Communities help further that mission?
Well, I think Fostering Communities aids in a lot of different ways to our overall mission. I think that we can create a sanctuary of hope and healing within our Crossnore bubble, and then our children go outside of that, and then they don't have the same sanctuary of hope and healing, right? So if we are better educating our community around us and pulling them into the work that we're doing, it better helps us create that overall sanctuary of hope and healing around our children as they progress towards their post-permanency, towards their permanency, right? Because they won't be with Crossnore forever. They won't be in a Crossnore foster home forever. Either they become adopted, or they are reunified with their family, or they stop utilizing our services. And so programs like Fostering Communities helps us to work alongside the community to rally around these families and create that like long-term effect. Yeah, and
I think that permanency piece that you mentioned is super important for for the kids that we serve, particularly that are in foster care or in one of our preventative programs. I know that our CEO, likes to say, where is this kid going to have Thanksgiving when they're 25? A lot of us, maintain those connections to our families, and we have a place to go on holidays and that kind of thing. But if you've not had a connection or haven't maintained a connection to your birth family, then what does that permanency look like for you when you're growing up? And is it possible to get that permanency in some other way with a mentor or a coach or a group of people even, that have come alongside you?
Right. Well, I would say one of the neat things about the last year with our Fostering Communities program is our development of our different mentor-like programs through our different partnerships in Winston-Salem, or in our Winston-Salem area and in our Avery County area, to partner with these different services that can help create those mentor-like programs. One specifically that that we've developed is our connection with a program called Open Table. And so instead of us trying to create a mentorship program for our young adults who are aging out of foster care, we've partnered with Open Table as they develop these very unique mentor-like programs that rally around our young adults that are aging out of foster care. And they, through different programs that they have, these adults in the community get to walk alongside some of our young people who are meeting or setting goals and achieving them. And so that's a really neat program that it's not technically, I always say mentor-like program because it really is. It's not, it sets these young people and these adults up to develop their own relationships and to utilize that socialization and that social relationship to further themselves.
Yeah. And I think you sort of answered this question, but I was just thinking about, as we've talked about communities coming together. So fostering communities, like you said, initially sort of started as an outreach to churches. But we've really broadened that to include, civic organizations or, groups or businesses or individuals. Why do you think that's important that the whole community come together to support children and families that are find themselves in these situations where they're connected to the Department of Social Services, or potentially, their children could be removed from their home in the case of some of our prevention programs? But why should the community care? Why should everybody come together to address this issue?
That's a loaded question, Holly. I think that it's important because there are actual children and families that have a huge need. And I think these children and families are a part of our communities. And in order for them to be successful, it has to become like a community problem, but also a community solution. And so if all of these programs can be isolated, DSS sometimes is its own island, and Crossnore can sometimes feel like its own island, but there's so many programs that are out there, civic organizations or different partnership organizations or nonprofits that are doing things really well. And so instead of everybody trying to do their own thing, we all start to join our islands together and communicate and work in partnership and really work in community with one another. I think one of the things that COVID taught us at the very beginning was how much we needed one another. When places shut down, when people lost their jobs, it was important for the community to rally together. And I think that's where our Fostering Communities program, that's where we're just trying to link programs together and create this well-oiled machine or communication system where we're all partnering together. And I said long ago that the work that we're doing sometimes feels like we are throwing pebbles and trying to make an impact by throwing pebbles into a big body of water. But if we sit there and we focus and send our rocks in together, our impact is going to be much greater down the road.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that we tell people all the time is, our expectation is not that one person or one group or one church does everything, because that's not reasonable, but everybody can do something.
Right.
I think what you said earlier about sort of finding what your niche is, is it something as simple as cards of encouragement, to social workers or to families or to whatever, all the way up to, we have some churches that are helping us to recruit foster families that are willing to go through licensure and then, open their homes. And so there's all levels of involvement in fostering communities. And it is important, I think, for us to come together as a community.
Right.
One of the things that we do each year that I think brings together a lot of folks in this community is our Fostering Communities Conference. And this year will be the fourth one. That seems crazy.
It's our fourth one. I know it seems like it was just yesterday that we started these things.
Yeah. So tell us about the conference. When is it? What can we expect from it? What's it going to look like this year? Because the last 2 years have been virtual, right?
Correct. So our inaugural Fostering Communities Conference was in person, and then COVID hit and we transitioned the last 2 years to virtual. So we're excited to be back in person. Again, I think that physical presence within the community is very important. And so we are currently working and registering for our conference in September. It'll be September 16th and 17th in Valdez, North Carolina, at the Old Rock School, right on Main Street in downtown Valdez. And we chose that location because it is central to all three of our campuses. It's about equal distance for all three locations to get there. And so we thought we would meet in the middle and see how that goes. And so this year we tried to go real big, right? We tried to make our conference something that is a celebration of being back together from the last 2 years. And we have a 1.5 days. We have a nighttime on the 16th, Friday the 16th. We have a very special event lined up called Life in Limbo. And it is a program brought to us by Fostering Great Ideas out of South Carolina. And it's a unique experience where you get to walk through a foster care simulation. So you walk through the night as a child in foster care, as a foster parent, as a biological parent, and you get to experience what it's like to be in foster care in the way that we can make it happen, right? And so you walk through and you experience the same emotions that some of our kiddos and families are experiencing, and it just gives you like sight into what we're working with, right? And the goal of that night is to help you better understand what foster care is like, but also for families and individuals to find their role in foster care, whether find a location for them to serve, or information about becoming a foster parent, or different programs for them to volunteer in. And so surrounding that experience, we're having what we call an involvement fair, where local organizations are just going to be sharing ways for people to get involved. So no matter where you come in on your walk with foster care, you will leave with some opportunity to serve, whether it's becoming a foster parent or a respite foster parent, or a mentor, or serving in one of our foster care closets. You'll have different opportunities when you leave. And then on Saturday, we are jam-packed with a lot of different breakouts and keynotes. Our two keynote speakers are Peter Mutabazi, who is out of the Charlotte area, and he is known on Instagram as Foster Dad Flipper. And on his Facebook, or his website is Now I Am Known, which is the name of his upcoming book that is releasing at the end of this month. And everyone that comes to the conference will get a copy of his book, which is super exciting. And the registration pays for itself, right, in the cost of this
Absolutely.
book. And then we also have Jamie Lynn, and she is known on Instagram as Family and Coffee, and she is a foster parent, a former foster youth, a social worker, like she has done kinship and guardianship, and she's fostered young kiddos and teenagers, and so she knows the gamut. So she is going to come with tons of information for us, and then our breakouts are jam-packed and loaded with different information, from like how your church can become involved in foster care, to youth that are aging out of foster care, to public advocacy. We have something for everybody when it comes to our breakout sessions.
We are super excited about the conference. I've dropped the link into the chat on this Facebook Live, so you can check out our website there. There's a complete schedule. There's a registration link. Registration is only $20 per person, and like Angela said, just for the cost of Peter's book alone, basically you're going to get into the conference, and we're going to feed you some food, and it'll be a great opportunity to learn some stuff. So it's really not just for foster families, right, Angela? Anybody
right.
can.
I think that one of the things that Fostering Communities does that we haven't even touched on is helping to better educate the community about foster care and trauma and the impact of foster care on the lives of kiddos. And so I think anybody, regardless of what they're doing or what their role is in foster care, will benefit from this conference, because there's such a variety of breakouts. We've been intentional to make sure that our breakouts cover such wide topics that if you're a foster parent, you'll choose your 3 based on that. But if you're an individual from a church or an individual from a local organization or a pastor or something, you will find a unique path that you can follow in those breakout sessions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, you don't even have to plan to foster to come to the conference. We're not, we'll sign you up that night, but we're not requiring that. So, so just come and learn and network and sort of find out what's happening in your own community around supporting families and children in the foster care system. And maybe something will strike you in how you want to get involved. So, Angela, I'm super grateful to have you at Crossnore, to have you on one of my teams, but also to have you here today to tell us about Fostering Communities and especially about the conference. So thank you so much for your time. And just thank everybody else for watching. Again, you can watch us on our Facebook page anytime, but also on our YouTube channel. And you can listen to the podcast on our blog or wherever it is that you get your podcast. So for now, we'll just invite you back next Tuesday at 1 o'clock for our next show, and hope that you have a good rest of your day. Thanks so much.
Thank you.